Welcome to the Billion Dollar Mindset Podcast. Today we have myself, Xavier Player,
I'm Artasia Julian.
and we have our guest from Forward Ventures,
Dwayne Powell Jr.
Eric Blair Cunningham.
yes. And today we will just be talking about their journey of starting a venture capitalist and other things in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So let's get started.
All right. So first I want to start by having everybody you two, tell us about yourselves, your upbringing, and what got you into venture capitalists.
Commissioner.
More about me. Born and raised here in the city of Kalamazoo. I have a huge family here in the city of Kalamazoo, and obviously because of that, I'm very passionate about my community. And so, going through high school, they thought I was a savant because in my test I scored an A, but I never turned in homework. So what that ended up being for me was a 1.8 GPA is what I graduated with. Eventually, it was like, it's funny because I got involved. My first mentor that I ever picked was a teacher named Kenyatta Tucker. And he got me involved in some college life stuff, and I ended up seeing these women, and I'm like, oh man, if I want one of these women, I need to become college educated. And that's what got my interest peaked in college. I was being recruited for basketball and track too, but what really ensured that I went there was just that I knew that I wanted this type of woman, and in order to get that type of woman, this is the man I needed to become. And so ended up going to KVCC, graduated with a 2.01, ended up going to Western Michigan and for a bachelor's and raised that GPA a little higher. And then I ended up studying my master's in public administration at Western too. And then spent 15 years working for the state of Michigan. Over the last 20 or 30 years, I've dedicated my life to this community in a million different ways. Probably the most notable hat as a former elected official. I was the youngest African American to ever serve on a commission at that time. And I was the first millennial to serve on the Kalamazoo City Commission. And so because of that servitude, it did afford me to get in rooms that I normally probably wouldn't have been able to get into and have conversations and build relationships along the way. Fast forward, I am no longer an elected official, and that was never my first passion. My first passion was actually business. And so actually one of my colleagues, who's one of our 6 partners, he and I was challenged with the idea of how do we start addressing nonprofit issues with for-profit thinking. And that was about 2.5 years ago. So fast forward 2 years later, 6 individuals, most of which are from the community, have dedicated their lives to the community, made a $50 million announcement called Kalamazoo Forward Ventures, which is an investment firm here in our community. And so, again, just an individual from the community, passionate about the community. Again, having a large family and putting God first are kind of the 2 components that really has allowed me to thrive in my purpose and my passion. And so now I'll leave space on the table for more conversation, but now we're 6 months into our venture. We're learning who we are, we're learning what our community is, and we're learning how to invest in our community.
Yeah, what I'm really proud of is 4 of our 6 partners are from the east side of Kalamazoo. So I'm also what we call East Main boy. But yeah, born and raised here in Kalamazoo, off of East Main, Arcadia, Northeastern, South Middle School, and Kalamazoo Central graduate. Got a marketing bug from Mr. Benton. I'm not sure you remember Mr. Benton, but Mr. Benton was the marketing teacher at Kalamazoo Central that in that class we were able to run the school store. But I had always had an entrepreneurial bent. My father, I started my first business at 9. Back in the day, you may not remember, but we had blackboards and he had erasers and they would get really dusty, and my mom was a janitor. So I had to go to school with her an hour early before all the rest of the students went there to help prepare to open the school. So I got the idea that I could take that job from my mom and I started charging the teachers 25 cents a week to clean their erasers. So that was my first business. Believe it or not, I paid for a semester of books with that money in college that I saved up. So I've always been an entrepreneur. From there, started a lawn care business at around 12 and started cutting grass. And then I had Edwin sold up on the east side, and Wallace was on my way. So, but yeah, I've always really had an affinity for making money. Always had jobs, always had businesses, and again, it kind of just grew and developed, and I kind of knew my niche. I thought I was a basketball player until I started playing with Greg Jennings and Jerome Harrison, and realized there was levels to being able to hoop, and that basketball probably wasn't my calling. But yeah, really took a knack for business, always had a knack for business and serving people. So even in high school, I knew I wanted to get into business. And then from there, in high school, I was mentored by the first black president of Western Michigan University, Dr. Elson Floyd. May his soul rest in peace. And he was mentoring me and actually encouraged me to attend Western. He gave me that, as many people are asked that as a senior in high school, what you gonna do when you graduate question. And I was like, I don't know, again, I wasn't used to people. It wasn't assumed that you would just go to college for me and my family. And he was like, well, you're going to Western, right? So when the president of Western tells you you're going to Western, that's probably where you're gonna go. So he was a great mentor that was one of the first black men in my vicinity that showed me what it looks like to operate at that level. And he helped me get into Western, helped me become an RA, and I began to really get into who I am as a business person. And while I was in college, graduated from Western with a marketing degree, and was recruited to Fort Lauderdale, Florida to work for Zimmerman Advertising, one of the largest advertising agencies in the country. So I did that for 2 years. Unfortunately, was laid off, but it ended up working. All things work to the good of them that love God and live according to his purpose. So it worked out for my best that I was laid off. I had to move back to Kalamazoo, and that was during the 2008 recession. And it was depressing, but again, good things could come out of tough times. It's just all about how you look at it, right? So during that time in 2008, we as a community was studying poverty and trying to get a handle on what was going on in our community and racial economic injustices. So I began to educate myself and learn about Kalamazoo specifically. And also when I was laid off during that time, I became a reader. So I started to truly read books, and I was reading 1 or 2 books per week. I didn't even know what a recession was, and here I am laid off during a recession. So I started to study economics and business, not just because someone told me, because I tried to pass a class, but for the first time, I wanted to read for myself, my own self-education. So really, dove deep into understanding business and culture and religion. And from there, I seen that there was a gap, that not enough black people in Kalamazoo were starting businesses. And I then asked, then City Commissioner Stephanie Moore, on who was helping black people start businesses. Because I knew I could help people grow their business because I was doing that in Fort Lauderdale from an advertising perspective. So, she looked at me in our conversation and was like, I don't know, you? And I really took it upon myself as in, yeah, maybe this is something I could do. And rather than try to look and see who should be doing that, how could I actually begin to become the solution, right? So I did that and started an organization called Nexus, which was a grassroots organization to help minorities organize economically and to develop their businesses economically. And it just grew. It just really grew. And from that, I kind of began to create a brand throughout West Michigan, that if you were black and you really wanted to grow your business, or Dwayne was someone that could help you with your business. And God started opening doors, and I got volunteer opportunities and all types of things that I was able to do during that time. Then a job at the city opened up as an economic developer, and I knew what economic development was, but I really didn't, and I definitely never seen it as a career. But I realized that that's essentially what I was already doing, right? I was bringing resources to people that didn't have it and creating opportunities. So yeah, I got hired at the city as a small business developer, and from there really began to develop a career professionally as a small business developer and a community investor. And then from those relationships, I bumped into a gentleman named Jeff Rimbo, who was a previous WMU Board of Trustee member. And he was the first VC manager that I had ever met. And I was very interested on what does that look like for you to manage, hundreds of millions of dollars and invest that in community. And I told him, I said, one day I want to do that. And he kind of kept me around him and introduced me to a lot of different people across the state. And I kind of always kept it at the back of my mind that one day I wanted to be a VC owner. So here I am. Again, if you do the work and you serve people, I believe it comes back to you. And I believe that's kind of why I'm in the seat that I am, because I've served hundreds of people across the state and Indiana, helping them find their way in business.
That is amazing. As you guys can see, we have two successful people sitting right here next to us. We just first want to say thank you for allowing us to interview you guys, because as you guys know, this is the first podcast, but I appreciate you guys for working with us and things in that matter. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit about myself and Xavier, we are students at Grand Valley State University, where I am studying marketing and accounting as a minor. I also have a business called Julian Sweet Treats, where we specialize in making a variety of desserts and things in that matter, and just traveling around the state of Michigan throughout the summertime to do festivals and things like that. And we are also into real estate, so I don't know if you guys are really familiar with real estate wholesaling, but you're basically kind of just like assigning a contract to your buyer, your cash buyer, and just handing it off to them, and they close on the property and things in that matter. So yeah, that's just a little bit about myself, and pass it on to Xavier.
So I am a barber. I cut hair. I'm into wholesaling and whatnot. Grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, studying advertisement and public relations with a minor in real estate development. So that's a little bit about me. But back to our conversation, we do want to talk about like consistency. Earlier that was brought up, and how do you guys think that, being consistent, or how would I say, analysis paralysis, when you feel like you're stuck somewhere, how could you keep going? You mentioned hard times. What is your advice to somebody who's trying to be persistent but having a hard time trying to get to a goal they're trying to reach?
Yeah, I can. So for me, it's always been discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Disciplining myself with the little things allows me to be a lot more accountable for the larger things. And then being real with yourself. So health and wellness is one of my passions. And so, oftentimes people say, oh, well, I'm going to start this diet, and I'm going to do all of these things. And we're going to start the diet on Monday. And then on Monday, you go buy all these things, and you completely change your diet or your exercise habit. And then a week or two later, you done fell off. And the reason why is because it wasn't disciplined. And by that, I mean, typically it's easier to move into that space when you do a little bit at a time versus just trying to jump a whole mountain. And so I can say, as far as, the last 30 years of my professional career, a lot of it has evolved around just doing a little bit every single day. And when moments like this have presented themselves, I can even look at the first time I served as being an elected official. The former mayor at the time, the former mayor who was the mayor at the time, Bobby J. Hopewell, reached out to me. He was like, hey man, opportunity might open up on the commission. I think you'd be a good fit. You should put in for the opportunity. And I think what really stood out was, I did enough work to be in this space, to serve in this capacity. And so it's one of those scenarios where I really started to understand, like, all those little things that I did along the way now appear to be big. And because it appears to be big, I have big opportunities that I can now be able to capitalize on. So it's one of those, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready type of scenarios. And I think that discipline was one of my abilities to always be able to achieve my goals. So I worked 9 to 5, right? But when I got off work, I put in 1 or 2 hours every single day towards whatever it is that I was envisioning or going after. And that could be a phone call, email, text message, It could be ideation that I just wrote down. It could be, you know, whatever energy that I need to put towards that goal to realize it. And really, it was just a lot of discipline because most people aren't able to leave work and go back to work for themselves. And I think that that has led to most of the opportunities I've ever been able to capitalize on. So analysis paralysis, when you get into a situation where it's really heavy, again, you take little bites to get out of it. And you got to give yourself grace, and then you got to understand that it takes time to get to the other side of the spectrum. And one of the things I always ask myself, this time next year, will I be in the same situation? Likely not. Let's just get through it.
Sure. That's great.
Yeah, I think you have to, I'm a purpose-driven person, and I think some people want to do something, but you have to recognize, like, who am I, right? Like, when something is actually tied to your identity, like, I couldn't help but essentially be headed to where I'm going. I'm not saying I have to be here, but I'd have been somewhere, you know, doing something. Because again, I've seen this as a part of my purpose early on, you know, maybe freshman, sophomore year in high school. So I think when you know who you are, it's kind of like when you buy a car. When you buy a car, it seems like, I don't care what kind of car it is, all of a sudden you can't miss it. Every time you see it all the time now, right? Like, you bought that 2012 Honda Accord, and now every day you see 2012 Honda Accords. So I think oftentimes people are paralyzed because they're really having an identity crisis. That could be, it's not everybody, but sometimes you just don't know who you are, you're trying to find yourself. But when you know who you are, you'll find yourself doing what you're called to do. So again, I'm gonna tie a lot of what I'm doing to faith because that's who I am. And my faith led me to know who I am as a business person, as what I call a marketplace minister. So I combine the two. So I can know when something is tied to who I am, and it allows me to make a decision pretty quick, right? If it's gonna take me away from, developing businesses and God, it ain't me. So again, purpose leads me and pushes me and pulls me into who I am today and will continue.
Sure.
Absolutely, I like that. I like that. So just to kind of go into like the second question, what really drew you guys? Because I know it's kind of hard to kind of narrow the question down when I ask this. What drew you guys to get into like the venture capital area? Like, how did that? I want to know how that started. Like, from the start to finish. I want to know everything.
All right, so I think I touched
whatever you
on
can
it.
tell us.
Yep, I touched on it a little earlier. A colleague and I were working on another project, and we were in rooms, where we get challenged, right? We get challenged in our thought, and one of the questions, again, was posed to me was, how do we address nonprofit issues with for-profit thinking? And so that actual individual was Bobby J. Oakwood, right? And so he and I, from that vantage point, said, okay, we've been posed with a challenge. We're interested in going into business together. How could these goals align? And so then fast forward, we did some conversations between he and I. And then we just realized we needed a better organized approach. And so we ended up bringing in Monica J. Liggins to orchestrate a conversation between, Monica Liggins, to organize a conversation and have some strategic planning around what we could potentially go and do. And so it's funny because we always laugh about it. He and I was in that meeting, and all of our ideas really came back to nonprofit. Like, because that's where our heart is at. We're so dedicated to this community, and we understand, we want to create these opportunities, but everything just kept coming out as nonprofit. And so I think we both kind of went on this journey of consulting with people in our circles with an idea. And I think once we started to ruminate on it a little more, we were able to, start narrowing in on this idea of venture capital, right? How can we invest in those who haven't been invested in to create opportunity? And so I think a piece of that, again, we have kind of went to our advisors. Dwayne was probably one where we reached out to and said, hey, what do you think we should be doing with this type of thought process? And then eventually we grew up to about 6 people that were not only individuals that we went to find consulting with, but individuals who were willing to go further down this journey of exploring the opportunity. And so as a venture capital, you have a responsibility and due diligence to go out and raise funds. And so we were able to raise $50 million within probably about a year and a half span. And again, it was 6 individuals of color who were all at the table at that point in time. And again, that was kind of the precipice of the journey. And then when we made that $50 million announcement, it's actually split into 3 different funds. And so I'm gonna speak to 2 of them, and then I'll allow Dwayne to take it from the third. So the first fund is what we're traditionally kind of known as, because that's the term that we use the most probably in trying to get understanding of who we were, and that's venture capital, right? And so we got 3 funds: the VC fund, real estate fund, and the Main Street fund. The VC fund's focus is technology, either hard tech or soft tech, and their geographical footprint is the entire state of Michigan, right? And then the real estate side, their focus is workforce housing, affordable housing, and commercial real estate development. Their focus is Kalamazoo County, but really intensely in on the city of Kalamazoo. And then last but not least is the Main Street side, for which each entity has a managing partner, and Dwayne Powell Jr. is our managing partner on the Main Street side of our work, and I'll let him go deeper into that.
Yeah, I'll take one step back and come right back to Main Street. So you asked the question, how do we get here? And we talked about purpose-driven. I think part of it, again, I'll glory be to God, but part of it is, again, me living in my purpose, which is helping underserved minority businesses grow. So again, as I began to build that brand for the last 14 years, again, people in this community and across the state, and in the beginning the Midwest, kind of started to know, this brother right here is making moves, and he's putting people in positions, serving others, and highlighting others to be able to get their opportunity. So when they were looking for someone and considering someone to support small businesses, I mean, it's a shorter list of people that's been operating at this level across the state. And I'm just proud to be from Kalamazoo and being able to do that work, and how God has opened up doors for me to do that work. But it all started with knowing who I am. And I will always say this, one of my best things that I try to share with people is the key to success is finding a problem and creating a solution. It's a real, true key to success is finding a problem and create a solution. And whatever God's given you, talents and gifts He's given you, bring that to that solution or to that problem and try to figure out a solution. So again, the problem that I have found was not enough people were helping Black businesses start and level up. So by me finding that problem and then beginning to create a solution, it kind of created a lane for me, and I stuck to it. As Eric said, the kind of the discipline to be consistent, and then doors open, right? Doors open. So that's kind of how I got to DMVC is, again, in Kalamazoo, and really in Michigan, the name and the brand is God is opening doors for that to be known as this, open doors for a lot of people. Another thing that Eric and I are touching on without even saying it, I'll kind of generalize it here, it's about serving others, right? You heard Eric talk about being on the diocese. That is death to self. It's literally dying to self. In the same way when you talk about working for the government, which doesn't pay, as the private market, I took a $30,000 pay cut to work at the city. So that's the level of sacrifice that this group's worked with, is we really died to self and put others first. And I think doors open up for those that live in that way, living purpose-driven and dying to self. I believe God has almost mandated to try to bless you. He can do that. So in terms of Main Street, so Main Street is what most of us see and interact with. Is small businesses in our community with a hyper focus on Kalamazoo, ranging from construction and consumer product goods, you name it, manufacturing. Those are our key areas of focus, but we're really focused on scaling. It's kind of similar to Shark Tank. Any business that has the ability to potentially go national is kind of what we're focused on, because that's the goal. The goal is how do we help underinvested entrepreneurs truly scale, to not just be self-employed, but to really truly employ others. That means you got to have a business that's scalable, right? So that's our goal, is to invest in local businesses that are really scalable, so we as minorities and women can own businesses, not just for ourselves, that we can begin to employ people that look like us and are in our communities. So yeah, that's what Main Street is. Again, hyper focus on Kalamazoo. We do different types of investments, primarily focus on investing in people to scale their business, right? So again, if you have a problem in your business, you have an opportunity in your business, and you might not be able to finance it, we call us we like the rich uncle, right? So that's the goal, is because that's what a lot of cultures have, right? A lot of other cultures got that rich uncle, right? Exactly, right? So it's our goal to kind of be that rich uncle for our community, that when you really have an opportunity that's scalable, you won't be like, man, if I had enough, I'd do it. You know what I mean? We're hoping that people can be inspired to take that opportunity. So it's not just finances, but we also use our social capital to make connections for people, right? Open up doors for people, and any relationship we have between the six of us, which is pretty deep, we really try to help people reach their goals. So we're still serving, even as VC owners. It's all about serving the community and creating win-win situations for the culture and for the community.
For sure. So what is some advice that you would have for someone in the Kalamazoo community to get in contact with you all and get at that opportunity to scale their business? Not any business, but something that's scalable.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that. See, I must be learning how to communicate this better.
He took it off.
Because he took it in. He picked up what I was putting down. So he's obviously a great listener, and I must be learning to articulate this a little better. So yeah, it's not every business, right? To give you an example, so you're a barber. It probably wouldn't be a barber shop, but maybe it'd be a hair product.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or maybe it'd be some clippers you didn't engineer.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what our culture has to grow to, and an understanding of that. You know, all of us may not be there, but we're really looking at scalable businesses. So it's not as much food trucks, things of that nature. But if you bottle and put that thing in a package, you see what I'm saying?
Something that can go in
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm glad we made that point, and that you took that, you received that. But yeah, that's how, I mean, all of our information is public, but www.kzfv.com, and you can put an inquiry on under the Main Street or in either one of our pages. We have, again, the 3 different divisions: Main Street, real estate, and tech, venture capital. So depending on what business you have, you can put an inquiry for either one of those pages. But yeah, we're accessible. Again, I'm also always telling people to go ahead and put a inquiry in. And the reason being, because even if we don't fund you, we can maybe help you get to the place that could.
For sure.
Or someone that can support you to build your business to where you could get funded. So we're hoping to be not an end-all be-all, but at least a pitch stop to help people get where they need to be. Because there's everybody, we won't be able to invest in everybody, obviously. Believe it or not, $50 million is not a ton of money. When you spread it across 3 different funds over 5 years, it's not a ton of money. But we're connected to a lot of different people. And again, we still want to get people to where they need to be so they can go on that next step.
What businesses do you guys want to see and within like the next 2 to 3 years coming in here pitching their ideas to you guys?
Yeah, so I think we've really focused in on, one is real estate businesses, right? The reason why I say that is because over the last 6-7 months of us doing this Main Street work, we've had the opportunity to hear about 130, 40, 50 pitches, right? So we had 130, 40, 50 different organizations come to us with all type of ideas and in all different stages. And what we found in that homework is probably the industry that's most mature for marginalized communities was the skilled trades, right? I think only one business that I could think of was doing more than 5 million in revenue, and they were doing about 20 million in revenue with government contracting. And so to be able to engage businesses like that felt good and refreshing to us to know that they're out there, one. Two, you know, it gave us some intentionality around who to focus on, because we recognize that there's some form of economic engine in the background and industry knowledge in the background in our marginalized communities that we just need to activate from a financial perspective. So I would say definitely anything in that commercial real estate housing space is something we'd be some form of interested in to understand if they can either partner with us or we can get them more involved in our ecosystem so that they can scale. The next piece is that consumer product goods, I think, is the type of businesses we would love to come across our table. Because again, to your point, you know, we can get them in minors, we can get them into wherever we're looking to do. But again, what mature ecosystem opportunities do we have out there? And if we look in our backyard of Battle Creek, you know, you see Kellogg, which is an internationally known brand, right? It has international connections. So what that means to me is we have the brain trust of individuals who can activate from that standpoint. And then manufacturing. Again, advanced manufacturing is going to be a key component to our community. I think when we look at the Pfizer, the Stryker opportunities, and that Med Tech and Western Michigan University, who's in our backyard too, and other universities that surround us, I think the advanced manufacturing is a key component that they put a lot of investment in, and there are some key components where we can have strong relationships and partnerships to not only invest our dollars, but find ways for them to also invest in opportunity. And so I think between advanced manufacturing, again, that real estate, skilled trades space is going to be pivotal, and then the consumer product goods that we're looking to hopefully get, you know, any and everywhere. And we were proud to say our first investment was in Ms. Doreen Gardner from our community. She has been a pillar in our community. She has done a million things. Her and her family has done a million things to build up our community. And she launched a business maybe about 4 or 5 years ago with the same grit and passion that we're looking for. She is a salesman in every way, sales lady in every way, shape, or form, right? And her product is peanut brittle, right? Papa's peanut brittle.
That's great.
If you have not had Papa's peanut brittle,
Get some box bread.
get some people Papa's peanut brittle.
It's fire.
Yeah, all it
It's
is.
fire.
It's good.
It's
And
fire.
so that being our first investment, I think it really spoke to who we're looking for, why we're looking for them, and even just if you understand her story, her background, her drive, it'll impress you and it'll engage you and it'll make you want to achieve more and do more. And so, yeah, I think that investment by itself really made us feel good about the first 6 months of what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to accomplish it, and to actually see some marginal goals become accomplished. So, yeah, again, those are the type of businesses we're looking for. Individuals, I think, are going to be at the crux of it. So I know I mentioned those 3 items, but it really comes back to the individual, right? So what we've also found in those 130 pitches, sometimes it's the right person, wrong product. Sometimes it's the right product, wrong person.
Wrong location.
Wrong location. Or it could be the right person, right product, wrong time, right? So timing is always key component to that. And so, yeah, so I think it's a combination of the individual, are they prepared to sacrifice and do the work that it requires, and then the opportunity for which we outlined 3 different opportunities.
If I may add, 2 other opportunities I want to bring to our attention that oftentimes we're not thinking about, right? As all of us are interested in business, oftentimes we're always thinking about starting a business, but believe it or not, the most successful way to get into business is actually to acquire a business. So acquisitions, being that baby boomers are retiring at 10,000 retirees per day, And 40–50% of the wealth in our nation is owned by the baby boomers, and even more than that in terms of the business owners. They're retiring, and only 1 out of 5 of them actually have someone to transition that business to. So there's just a huge opportunity for us to help minorities and women acquire companies, right? That you put your, spin on it, and then take it to the next level. So I just want to, while we're having this conversation, bring that to the attention, as I'm saying that from the hills and the mountains, because we're in a special time where baby boomers are transitioning, either retiring and due to health, and that transition is going to happen whether we're a part of it or not. And we're able to be a part of it, then it just creates opportunities that won't come around for a little while. So yeah, I think realistically, out of everything we're doing, I think that's the biggest opportunity. Being that most people aren't thinking that way, we won't be able to do it as much as we would want to. But if you know someone that is selling a business, then you should really consider purchasing it, because again, you could bring yourself to that and really help to scale that. And oftentimes, baby boomers they ain't got the right website, they don't know how to promote, they don't have the right advertising, and the business might be a little stale, you know what I'm saying? So you could bring your youth, ingenuity, and creativity to it, and really take it to the next level. And there's just also creative ways. I hear you talk about wholesaling. There's creative ways to finance existing businesses, and also financiers a lot easier to finance something existing, right? Because I can see the financials for however many years. Where you're gonna tell me what you're gonna do, that's hard to predict. At that point of an acquisition, all I'm trying to do is see if you're gonna mess it up, because I know what the business can do. You see what I'm saying? So I'm really trying to educate as many people on this, what they call it, a silver tsunami of baby boomers retiring, and acquisitions. It's just a huge opportunity. I know everybody's trying to start a business, but it'd be a lot easier for you to take on a business and then grow it. Even I think about people that are professionals, and you make it 40, 50, or 100 grand. Well, to replace that income as an entrepreneur is super hard, right? But to replace that income as an acquisition, a lot easier, right? Because the profit's already built into it. So again, for people transitioning out of their careers, it's just, to me, one of the best ways, and lower risk. Not saying there's no risk, there's risk to everything, but it's lower risk because he's already making money. You already know what the business do. Now at that point, you're trying to bring your culture to that culture and then lift it up, right? So that's one. Another one is franchises, right? So oftentimes we're doing like a food business like yours, right? Well, it's very difficult because for you to compete, you got to compete with those that are buying at a national level in terms of price, right? So by purchasing into a franchise, you get all their supply chain, you get all of their products and their branding. And you don't have to be an expert chef to run a Chick-fil-A or a McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do would be a good business person and run a good business. So again, another huge opportunity for minorities to really grow a business and to create wealth for ourselves is through investing in proven systems, right? And then you can still put your spit on it, you can still put your shine on it, right? But it's a lot easier lift per se, right? Because you're getting, right, the blueprint, you just have to make sure you follow it. Now, I'm not saying it's not hard work, business is hard work, but it's a lot easier to sign on rather than try to create everything yourself. So those are two things I also wanted to highlight in terms of what we're looking to invest in. So,
So I was going to ask, any current projects that you guys are working on right now? I know we touched on it earlier. I don't know if you want to announce it, but any current projects that you guys have at the moment? Or?
I think our director of outreach would be really upset if we let the cat out the bag. I can say this, and you all will be proud of this. We are working with Western on some great projects, and it's our goal to invest in some students around pitch competitions and activating things that are already on campus and students that are already on campus. So super excited about that work. We have invested in 2 more companies. Actually, our third one was yesterday. Third one was yesterday. So, but yeah, we just closed on our third business, which is a really special business. I'll tell you, it's a factory. I can't say who, but it's a factory that we invested in. So yeah, it's really exciting to think about the economic impact that we will have over the next, hopefully, several decades, but bare minimum next 10 years.
For sure.
So can't tell you about individual businesses, but it's come out really soon. Our second investment will be coming out really soon.
Okay.
And that one, I can tell you this, dropping some cloth today,
Right, okay.
is government contracting. So one of the things that we do not do enough of is do business with the largest consumer in the world, which is the federal government. Federal government. And I get it, some of us don't have businesses that are operating that level, but we gotta start thinking on that level and shoot towards that level, right? So it's gonna be a huge opportunity. We believe it'll be hopefully like a shining star that will shine very bright on what it looks like to do business with the federal government and grow your business with the largest consumer in the world. So,
For sure.
so that's, I can give you the industries. First, I'll give you the industries. Eric, what you think?
No, I think you did the nail on the head. I think it's really how do we support our community and continuously identify the gaps. And that's the announcement, right? Is that we're here to collaborate, not be competition, right? And one of the things I think we're breaking walls down on is even those geographical walls. I will say the benefit of COVID was that you see we can now meet virtually, so you can really strongly develop relationships without being in that exact community. I think that's going to be a key component to a lot of our success moving forward, whereas pre-COVID, you might not have had that type of success. So yeah, I think we're still at a place of getting our name out there. We have investments coming down the line that's just really focused on getting and engaging any and everybody to understand the needs of those who are founders, and then making sure that us as an investment firm are meeting the founders where they're at. And that may be a little more homework than your average investment firm, and that's something that we're willing to take on, I have been taking on. And that typically looks like, how do we get more mentors involved? How do we get more advisors involved? How do we get a C-suite individual? And it's not just involved, but it's more so usher and build that relationship, because there should be a relational relationship versus a transactional relationship. And so, I got my accounting, am I just giving him numbers and he's giving me numbers back? Or are we sitting down talking about family, talking about friendships, building a bond? And are we then talking about, okay, these are the numbers I got back. What are the story that it's telling you as an accountant? And he or she will give you the red flags and say, these are the things that we're noticing, and you should probably be cognizant of this as you move forward. And so just building those relationships with those experts to get our investment portfolio the support that they need. And then hopefully in 5 to 10 years, we look back and say, man, we created 10 more opportunities that would have not been there had it not been for us putting in the effort, the energy, and the investment.
For sure. I do want to ask one more question. Going into technology, how do you guys feel about so much AI and, do you guys, what do you guys plan on doing with that? Because I know that's a big thing that will be coming into our generation, especially with Gen Z. Like you said, the baby boomer, they are exiting out. Peace out to y'all. But, Gen Z, the AI, like everybody's talking about AI, trying to test things. How do you guys feel about that?
So I'm a huge advocate for AI.
Yeah.
They probably should be putting me on their payroll.
For sure.
Every pitch, I'm asking, who are you consulting? And they'll tell me, and then I say, have you consulted with ChatGPT? And that's the main AI that I use, because in all reality, that's my new life coach. That's my new everyday consultant. That's my new mentor to bounce ideas off of and things of that nature. What's been interesting is, the boom the AI boom is, we're living in that right now.
Yeah.
And it's, still, we imagine that it's really integrated, it's still not. If it feels that way, it's just because you're integrated in circles where individuals are using it. But the average consumer out there does not use AI under no circumstance. And so every pitch that we've had, do you use ChatGPT? Oh, no. Well, I just saved you 2 hours out of your day. Let me show you. And so we're very intentional with not hiding our hand. If there's a resource we have access to, there's a resource that you have access to. Dwayne mentioned it. We tell you, even if you aren't prepared for us, there may be something else that's out there, and we would love to pour into you.
Yeah.
And so even if it's, we took 45 minutes out of our day for us to understand more about what you're looking to accomplish, and we connected you to 3 other resources that can help you move along in your journey, that's a win on our end. And these are some of the things that we're going to create. We're creating as measurables just from our perspective. But that being said, even ChatGPT, I have a limited understanding, right? And I'm just now learning. One of her the firm that she works for, they've integrated ChatGPT on the back end for everything that they do. So, their case management system is integrated into ChatGPT. Their email system integrated into ChatGPT. So now we got to put in a bid for this opportunity. Take the request for proposal, pop it into ChatGPT, say, hey, give me a bid, hit enter. It's gonna pull your certificates you need. It's gonna give you attachments for your certificates, your insurance, your bonding, your whatever else, and then it's gonna give you the answer or the question or the bid for that particular RFP. Whereas historically, you gotta go in, type it out, everything, you gotta make some phone calls, you gotta do these other components, then you gotta go and gather the documents necessary. Well, my insurance is in this folder, then my certificate is in that folder. Where with this situation, literally what took an hour or 2 hours minimum is now 10, 15 minutes. So I am a huge supporter of AI. I think there's a fear of AI, and a piece of it is my personal what they know about me, and that's I think that's very real and valid. But also there's a fear of I think individuals just don't understand. I'm trying to make sure I word this correctly. There's a fear of job loss associated to AI. And there's a fear that, specifically, I think from the creative community, that it's going to take over your work. And what I like to think of it as is actually the creatives are the ones who will succeed the most. Because I think this AI now levels the playing field for those who have technical expertise and maybe not the creative expertise. But now for the creative side, it's really going to be who's more creative, right? Your creative juices is just an overlay with this. It's just, now you got the technical expertise in your background. And don't get me wrong, I think that AI can do some creative components, but nothing it'll never have the complexity of an individual and their lived experience. It'll never have that, right? And so, I think it's a unique time. Dwayne pointed at me and laughed because, hey, that's my first question every single day, and I probably, we find a way to talk about it, I would think every day.
Almost every day. Yeah, I think it's going to be game changing. It's similar to robotics, right? Similar to the computer, similar to transitioning from horse and buggy to car. I think it's going to be that big, maybe bigger. Actually, I think it'll be bigger. In terms of, I'm considering going up to the $200 range just to be able to say, okay, if I wanted to create a bot, what would that look like, right? Like, and to have essentially a staff working for me that I'm paying $200 a month, like that's dope, So I think it should create efficiency. What concerns me is it will widen the gap of have and have not, right? Like the information, if you don't know how to use it, at some point it would be like the baby boomers who don't know how to use computers, right? Which is a lot of baby boomers. And when they got to the end of the career, it was like, well, what do I even do with you right now? Because you can't even use a computer, right? So I think that's gonna speed up and unfortunately create a wider gap between the have and have not, which unfortunately we understand historically and economically will impact minorities and women more so. So that's what makes me, it charges me to understand that the work that we're doing is just that much more important. You know what I mean? Is empowering people that may not have access to have access. We're gonna have to be more collaborative, and it ain't gonna be no game. You know, you can't be, 30-some years old trying to figure it out, because opportunities are gonna be moving faster and quicker, and they're gonna demand more from us, in terms of education. Because if a robot can do it, why would they need you? Right? So we're gonna have to learn how to use this stuff, or you're gonna get left behind. And that's unfortunate, but it's the reality. In life, we can't deal with anything outside of reality. So how do we help more people have access? That's, again, find a problem, create a solution.
So with like, I just want to know you guys' perspective on college. How much do you guys feel? I feel like just even like my mom, she completely understands it. My dad, he completely understands. But I have other family members that don't understand. Like, how do you guys, with the AI in place, and it's going to be changing a lot of things, do you guys feel that college is definitely still going to be needed with a lot of stuff? Or do you, well, let me just rephrase that.
I think it's a good question.
Okay, just go ahead and answer it then.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
So, the answer to your question is, I think it will be still needed. And the reason why I say that is colleges are going to pivot, and I believe education is going to be interrupted, right? Where you might have a professor living in Italy, you know what I mean? But he gonna be the best economics professor ever, you know what I'm saying? And like, technology is really, like, education is one of the last institutions to be interrupted by technology. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's essentially the same as it was when our grandparents was going to school. I mean, you added computers, but it's essentially the same, right? You went from blackboards to whiteboards to still boards, right? So it's overdue. Now, what it will look like, I don't know. But it's going to be interrupted heavily, I believe, in the next 5 years. But I think it will still be needed, maybe even more so, because the level of education that people are going to have to interact with this stuff is going to increase. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's going to just change. It's not going to look like it does now, where here's a piece of paper, answer these 20 questions, like, that's dead. That's dead.
And it's crazy because people still do that.
I know, it's that. Because my point is, I can literally take a picture of this, put it in ChatGPT, and then answer in 30 seconds. You see what I'm saying? And I'm done with the entire test. You see what I'm saying? So it makes no sense to do school like that anymore, right? But for us to be able to code and engineer and everything around, the mechanical and the electrical and all those things, people don't have to be educated. And that's what concerns me, is because our education system has sucked for so long. You know what I'm saying? Like, people not ready for that. So a lot of people will be left behind. But I think the importance of education will actually increase, because without education, you ain't gonna do nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
I want to touch on something, like education and trades.
Mhm.
You mentioned like mechanical, like plumbing, HVAC, all of that stuff. Like, I see a study where a lot of people behind on that type of stuff. And how do you guys feel about that? Not trying to jump from topic to
No,
topic,
you're not.
but like,
Same topic.
like, how do you feel of this generation or younger generation getting into that instead of going to college? Like,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that society has taken on certain policies that have pushed people away from the skilled trades. There was a huge push, specifically in the 90s, that would have driven somebody like Dwayne and I through college. And that was, at that time, that was the only route, and all of these other opportunities were actually frowned upon or looked down upon. Shoot, even to have an online class was like, that was the worst. And now that's a norm, right? And so I think from that perspective, I think that because it's been out of whack so long, you have the baby boomer generation exiting, so you have a mass exodus, you have a shortage, and now we need to backfill. I think that there is high-paying wages and opportunity that will continue and always be there, because that's one portion of our society that you can't get rid of. They'll always be building and take the hands-on one component. Even if you do advanced manufacturing where you manufacture a house inside of a building, there's still the knowledge and components, the knowledge and understanding that has to go into that concept of building and structuring a building. And so I think there's plenty of opportunities for that skilled trades. Again, in our community as people of color, it's a missed opportunity, again, because we saw dad, who was a plumber, then he didn't pass on that skill set to daughter or son, right? And because of that, some of that generational wealth, generational knowledge is lost. And so I believe in college because I believe in college, skill trades, some form of structured education beyond high school, because you need to learn and industry and become specifically well-trained and guided in that work. So I believe in college still. I think it'll continue to be an opportunity. I wanted to kind of dovetail it, but it's still in the same vein. Conversation that Dwayne and I, and this is what I appreciate about working with Six Brothers, is that we have very direct, forward conversation, unfiltered. And one of our unfiltered conversations is really that construct of what society looked at like before and where it's at now. And what I mean by that is, how has it impacted us economically from a business and ownership standpoint? And so when we think about, at one point in time, one income household could take care of the entire family. Now you need two incomes. And now we get to the point where them two not even holding it down like it should be, right? And I think that a lot of that is due to those type of policies that took the skilled trades out of the household and the focus of the college going in. So it's really about balance, and we just been out of whack for a long time. And because of that out of whackness, it's now provided us, as he said, we see a problem, we're creating a solution, and we're going after it with those skilled tradesmen, with those developers to say, hey, these are the things you want to do. Let's assist you, and then let's find a way to expedite it. So if we can, years past, you might be able to squeeze 1 or 2 successful apprentices out. Now we can squeeze 5 out because there's such a gap and such a need on the other side that there's guaranteed jobs or business opportunities. And so I think collectively, skilled trades is going to be valuable. The education system is still valuable. I think they bring 2 different nuances. I think we have to be in tune with our youth, right? Everything that we do has to be for the next generation. And I love how, I had the opportunity to speak to the tribe out of the not Grand Rapids area, but I can't think of the exact community, but just north of Kalamazoo. And they said, every decision they make is for 7 generations from now. 7 generations is a generation you won't see, right? So we're making decisions for somebody we'll never see or feel or touch, but we understand that that's the type of long-term investment that we need to create for ourselves. And one of our consultants here, he always says, it's really about that generational wealth that we're passing along to our kids. And when you hear that, you naturally think, oh, what money, what business opportunity. But it's not that. I got bad knees. My daughter needs to understand that hereditarily, she might have bad knees when she gets to my age. So how do you stretch now? How do you eat now? How do you, wear your shoes now? Those type of components are going to affect her quality of life when she gets to 40. So instead of being in her 40s and dealing with issues, she may be in her 50s or 60s. That's the wealth.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the wealth. And so those are the components that we just got to be very intentional on in making sure that we collectively address. And it looks like that through education, not only in the system, but also from our family, our elders, and even our ancestors.
I add one piece, I think that also because many of us are first generation college students, we don't know, we don't know. And our sisters, as you know, are doing better in terms of college degree obtainment, but they're also in way more debt. So I think we've got to really do a better job educating our people that, yeah, you got a college degree, but you got 200 grand, you got 100 grand in debt, and we thinking that for whatever reason, I'm gonna go and do dance, and it's gonna all, work out. And I think that is a little bit of a delusion in terms of not understanding the return on investment, right? Like it's unlimited. No, there's a need to assess return on investment for our time and for our money, right? And I think that was also what the millennials kind of got hosed with, because we were taught by really baby boomers that, hey, go to school so you can get a good job. But during that time, the price of school like 10x, right? So what they said was already outdated, because that was true when they were in school or could have had a chance to go to school. You know what I'm saying? But the return on investment began to diminish so much in the early 2000s and late 90s because of the price of obtaining a degree. So I think you really have to be smart about it, be willing, as Eric did, to go to a junior college and look at scholarships, military, whatever you got to do, but just going to school and dropping 100 grand to get a sociology degree, that ain't the move. You know what I mean? That ain't the move. But again, we don't know. And that's why I'm always adamant about purpose-driven life, right? A lot of us are just going to school for the wrong reasons, and because someone told us to go to school, or interested in something, like take a class at KVCC, don't mean you got to get a 4-year degree in it. You know what I mean? So that's that education I think is missing, that are not getting from our high school teachers and our counselors. Is where do you want to go? What does this look like, and what is it going to cost you in terms of time and money? I think that's the conversation that needs to happen now. I think, if you're going for engineering, shoot, yeah, you might can rack up 100 grand. You know what I'm saying? But to go to school and rack up 100 grand to be a teacher,
That's not funny.
you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I
Makes
mean?
sense.
That's tough. You know what I'm saying? So you got to go about it smart. I'm not saying you don't go to school. We need more teachers, but
Yeah.
go to KVCC or go to a junior college, right? And pay 10 grand, right?
Use
And,
resources.
yeah, exactly. And you come out with 40 grand. Okay, that make more sense. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that make more sense. But that's what's happening, is especially a lot of our sisters are disproportionately going to school without purpose and graduating. You got a master's degree. I remember I was dating a girl in college. She didn't even want to tell me how much debt she had. I was like, okay, you can't be the one.
Yeah.
You can't be the one. You know what I'm saying? Because I got to marry you and accrue that type of debt. Like,
Nobody want that.
And that's why it's important, like, talking about community. It's good that you guys were able to come back and talk to the youth, but also the college you promised, like,
Yeah.
using your accessories
Exactly.
and stuff that you have in your
Exactly.
community, and just going somewhere local. And
Yeah.
maybe you have to come back, but you could be the change.
yeah.
At Kalamazoo Central, they say world changers.
Mhm.
You could come back here just like these two gentlemen and make a big difference in the Kalamazoo community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I even then, I had to convince my son, my oldest boy, he wanted to go to Howard. I was like, look, if you live in any other city but Kalamazoo, you can go to Howard. And I'll be all for it. You ain't going to Howard. You know what I'm saying? Not on my dime, you ain't going to Howard. You know what I mean? But we don't think about that. Again, the unfortunate thing is when you're making that decision as an 18 and 19-year-old, you don't have that level of hindsight. I mean, you're going from high school and driving, a 20-year-old car to essentially making a $100,000 decision at the same. As soon as you're graduating, you're walking out that door, you're making a $100,000 decision. And oftentimes we're not prepared to do that, and we don't have parents and other people in our community to educate us on that. So that's the unfortunate thing, and that's the blessing of living in Kalamazoo, to have the promise. But we got to understand return on investment.
For sure.
Yeah, we were even talking about, honestly, it's crazy, because we were talking about that like a few weeks ago, on like how a lot, like, we know people that's in like hundreds and thousands of dollars.
Mhm.
And I am beyond grateful for the Kalamazoo Promise, for covering our tuition and things in that matter, because I just hear like the debt people go into, and it's just like, then they tell me their major, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the number's not making sense. Like,
Yeah.
something gotta add up, because you spending $100,000 on this and you going to get a communications degree.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
So that's very important, because I'm so thankful I have an amazing mom, because I even thought about going to school out of state, and I've talked to my younger sister and cousins and stuff too, like, save as much as you can. You can move after college, do school where it's free at, and then move, because realistically, all that stuff is gonna go onto your credit, and
Yeah.
who wants to be in debt?
Nope.
I don't like to owe anybody. It's bad enough that we already gotta pay for all this expensive stuff, and then paying for school is another thing. So that's one thing that I wanna tell the younger generation. If something is free, take it. As long as you don't have to do nothing crazy for it, take it
Mhm.
and move later.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna be there. I mean, nobody want $100,000 in debt, you know, so.
Or more.
man.
Yeah, I said the same thing to my son. Go get your master's at Howard. That's cool. You know,
Mhm.
if you want to go do that, move down there. And then all the times we don't realize is that when you get into your career, a lot of times your employer pay for it,
Yeah.
right? So you can get your master's and that can be paid for too. So again, we got to work smarter and not harder.
For sure.
And I will say one thing. You come to mind, so I'm gonna say it. See, I like that. Okay, so good that. I want to make sure we bring that out there as we educate today. I like that. I could take $1 billion loan right now. You say, sign your name right here.
It's signed.
I'll sign my name right here for that $1 billion. But again, that comes with education, right? So I would, but 99.9 should not take that $1
Don't
billion.
go buy a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, we ain't buy Rolls Royces. We ain't buy, but good debt.
Yeah,
Good debt. As long as it's gonna make you money,
Make you money.
go ahead and get that.
Go ahead, get there.
But just to kind of like wrap this up, because I definitely know we're in a time crunch, and I know I can talk a lot, and Xavier, he can talk a lot, and Eric can talk a lot, and Dwayne can talk a
Oh,
lot.
for sure.
Yeah, so just kind of like wrap this up. What advice would you guys give to your younger self? And give us 2 good books to read.
Advice I would give to myself, I would say first give myself grace.
Mm.
That will be a cornerstone to myself, because primarily, and the reason why would be, I understood when people let me down, because that's the nature of man. I had a hard time when I let myself down.
Mm.
And so I had to learn how to forgive myself. And I think that would be one of the key components. And then 2, I would even suggest understanding finance better at a younger age. If business was my passion and my goal, to own and operate, really understand how money works from a banking perspective, from a household perspective, from a community's perspective. Really understand how money works. And when you do that, I think that's the key to unlocking the other side of the spectrum, which is this good or service that I'm trying to provide. So those would be the 2 gifts that I would give myself at a younger age. And I went to school for business management, so I understood business. But there's another level of complexity, and no matter what you do, you own a theater, you gotta understand business. You own a manufacturing company, you gotta understand business. You own a media company, you gotta understand business. So I think that complexity of finance is always gonna be integral. The 2 books that I would point in your direction. The first I would say is something that you all know. Some of you have, I'm pretty sure everybody has read. Maybe not from front to back or back to front, but the Bible. And I would say, Dwayne used it as far as purpose, right? So for me, purpose is understanding that every day I'm walking in my purpose. I wake up, I walk in my purpose. If my purpose was to run into you today, that was my purpose. Now, how am I going to succeed or be value to God and my community in that moment and in that purpose. There's billions of people in this world. I don't know them billions of people. For whatever reason, you were here with me in this time, and I find value in that, right? So I thank God for that gift, but the reason why the Bible is important is because we need to often understand how we're going to operate in society. And Dwayne mentioned earlier, understanding who I am. I always apply biblical principles in everything I do. Now, people might have heard, oh, Eric's meditating. Well, I was just praying, right? The world knows that's meditation. I know that's prayer, right? People might heard, oh, Eric's fasting, well, or Eric's discipline on his diet. Well, people might have heard it as discipline. In my mind, it was fasting, right? So I think some of those valuable components on how you operate in a day-to-day space is going to be built into that word, and that word will keep you in a place of humility. That word will keep you in a place of servitude, and it will also allow you to operate at a place where people don't understand, and that's, we understand that as, you know, you will have peace, not because you were delivered out of the storm, not because you're not in a storm, but you will have peace in the midst of the storm. And I think that is a valuable component to anybody as far as books. I would say the other book that really was a catalyst in my success. Now, I'm not a self-help book guy. Actually, most books that I read is textbooks, because I just want to understand knowledge. Like, I just want it, and I love to learn. But the book that probably really stood out to me, and I think just helped me conceptualize being a black man in society, understanding my historical context of society, was Malcolm X autobiography. And so it just, you know, to be able to hear theory, to apply theory, to blend in the culture of who I am, and one of the things about myself, I was raised in the hood. I understood the streets, so that's a piece of who I am. I was raised in the church, and I know the word inside and out, so that's who I am. I'm also massively educated in comparison to, you know, the remainder of my community. So that's a piece of who I am. And then I have an affinity for family and my culture, right? So when I was looking for a wife, right, the key cornerstone of who I am right now, I needed her to be in tune with all of those complexities. Some people had 3, some people had 1, some people had 2, some people got 7. But those particular 4, I always want to understand it in a total context, and I think that a lot of the lessons or the ideations or the theory that came out of that book will definitely be beneficial to anybody who reads it.
Yeah, two pieces of advice that has been transformational for me is finding good mentors. Finding good mentors and trying to find a way where the relationship could be reciprocal, where you could serve the mentor. So that actually leads me to the second piece of advice, is find a way to serve others. Really, truly find a way to serve others. You can have an end of the day benefit, but really finding a way to serve others unconditionally and just helping others have their needs being met. And the reason for is, for one, Eric spoke of it earlier, the humility that comes with that, and keeps you grounded. And I think about us, you think about even with just having a college degree, or you all doing the work that you're doing, you're already beginning to kind of, from a societal perspective, heap to the top. And one thing that could really clip you is pride, right? And serving others keeps you humble. It allows you to appreciate where you are, understanding we've all made mistakes and we could be anywhere doing anything, but God has blessed us to be where we are. So just keeping a heart of servitude. Second reason why servantry is so important is I've been afforded almost all of my opportunities because of my ability and willingness to serve others. You know what I mean? Again, I spoke of it earlier. You said, how'd you get here? Serving others. You know, and I figured out a way. I was volunteering and supporting dozens of black businesses in our community years before I ever even had the opportunity to pay for it. And I was paying money. I was paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to support others. Never even thought about it as a career. You know what I mean? I never even thought about it as a career. But again, found a problem, create a solution. So from that, opportunities and doors open. So I just really, if you really want to break into your career, find a way to serve someone doing something you would want to do or around something you would want to do. I wanted to be a business owner, so I served other business owners, and now here I am, right? And God has almost allowed me to leapfrog some people that have been in business for 30 years. You see what I'm saying? But it's because I served hundreds of black businesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I was able to learn through serving them. And I can't take credit for that. God told me whatever I do for his people, he would do for me. And here I am. So in terms of the books, Purpose Driven Life is a really good book by Rick Warren. That really breaks down really how to go about finding your purpose. And another good book, just a simple book that is oftentimes referenced, is called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And Simon Sinek is a really unique way of really finding the purpose of your business. And he's got a really unique way to kind of go about being able to articulate the why of anything. Because what gets us up, what moves us is a why, right? And then you get to the how, and then you get to the what. But that's my point when you asked me that question earlier, how do you get beyond being stagnant? You got to tap into that why, and then that should move you to the how, and then the what, and then even the when. Does that make sense? But it all starts with why. So I think if you think about both of those books, I didn't put it together, but it's all about purpose. And Eric took mine, of course. My favorite read on my desk as we speak is the Bible, because he created us for a purpose. And it all starts with God. And when you realize that you were created for such a time as this, then you value time differently. You value people differently. Like I value each of you before you came in here because I value life. You see what I'm saying? And once I valued my life, I was able to value other people's life. You think about the violence that's happening in our community. A lot of that's happening because people don't value themselves. And if I don't value myself, how can I ever value you? And the reason why I don't value myself, because I don't see my life as purposeful. You see what I'm saying? So it all boils down to purpose. So yeah, those are the two. Start with Why by Simon Sinek, and Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. Or I said Rick Warren? Yeah, Rick Warren. Rick Warren's his name. Rick Warren. Yeah. I was thinking of Rick Rubin. I'm like, oh, different genius. But yeah, Rick Warren.
Well, we just want to say thank you for allowing us to interview you guys. You guys are really amazing people, and it's super motivational just to listen to people like you guys and just hear like where you guys came from, how you started, and things in that matter. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for tuning in to the $1 Billion Mindset Podcast. Stay tuned for the second episode.